everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Tomcat Stitchery. I'm Whitney, and today we are here for another Sunday Sew Along. We are working on the Huxley bag by Goheen Designs. This is part 4, and we are doing the front of the bag and the bag flap. So I'm doing view A. I did accidentally delete one clip when I was editing, and it's lost forever. Actually, I accidentally deleted it off my camera. Anyway, I will put some words before this starts, but the only thing I deleted was sewing leather to the straps that attach to the bottom of the front. So when it catches up to me, I'm showing you where I've put the rivets and the snaps into that strap. So it's not a big thing, but I totally accidentally deleted it, and where I introduce, hey, we're working on the front today, so I apologize. Anyway, I'll put exactly what you've missed in some words here before I get into the sew along. But yeah, we're tooling right along, and next week we will finish it up. So I hope you guys have a wonderful end of your weekend, and I'll see you on Tuesday, and then again on Friday, and then again next week for the finishing of the sew along. Bye. Alright, so this is what they should look like. You're going to have the female sides on the leather side, so they'll be facing up. And then on the back, I've used the uglier, just the tandy ones, you know, not the prettier caps. And then we've got these little guys here. So now we're going to take our front and see, we've got these 2 spots here. That is where we are going to line up these, and we're actually going to sew these like this. Oh, sorry, in frame. We're going to sew these like this. So the right side, the leather side of the strap is going to be facing the right side of the bag, and we are going to line up the end here with the box here. And we're just going to do our box stitch where we stitch around and then the X through the box. We're going to stitch that on both sides like so. Again, leather side facing up, because these are then going to be sewn like so into the bottom seam with a little bit. They're not going to be flush, just like on the back. So let's do that. So I actually had an idea of making this easier. I'm actually going to pop a pin from the back through to the front, which, yes, that's going to pierce my leather, but I'm getting ready to sew over it. So I'm doing opposite corners. You probably can't see that very well. I'm doing opposite corners. I've poked them through from the back side, so then I can just kind of position that. And then you want to make sure that you are sewing it straight. So just kind of make sure that your cut edge of your strap is lining up correctly with the bottom edge here, because once you have sewn this and then you're going to go over, there's notches here at the bottom that's going to get basted into, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where we're going. So and again, with this one, with the box, you're just sewing through that leather flap that's at the end of your band. So I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself here. I'm just going to line that up, and I'm going to sew my X, and then for both sides, and then I'll come back and kind of show you what I got. so now we've got, it's gonna be really hard to see because that's like the suede part, but I've sewn the box pretty close to the box that's there with the X through it. Okay, so now, okay, so now we're going to do rivets. So we're going to just fold these down and they will fold naturally right there at the edge of that webbing will cause it just to fold naturally. And we're gonna place a rivet at the top of each one of these. So I'm gonna go do that off camera really quick and then I'll come back and we will baste the bottoms of these in place. All right, so now it should look like this with your rivets on there. All right, now we're gonna baste the ends of these to the bottom of the bag. Again, you should have 2 notches at the bottom. So you wanna line that up with the raw edge so it's not, it's not gonna sit flat. So I'm just gonna sew this at 1/4 inch, baste it basically, to the bottom of the bag on both sides really quickly. All right, had some trouble with the thickness there. My machine getting all gunked up. So we're basted down here at the bottom. We've got our rivet up here. We've got our female snap there. Okay, so we should be good with that piece for right now. All right. Oh wait, no, just kidding. We're gonna sew our bottom on. So this is the other piece G here, and we're gonna sew the longer end to the bottom. Go slowly over all this thickness because you're working with a lot of leather there. I'm actually gonna go over and I think hammer these 2 big thick spots just because I was having issues basting just now, so I don't wanna get all fouled up there. So I'm gonna go hammer those nice and flat, and then I'm gonna sew the bottom onto my front. Okay, so now we have the bottom sewn to the front. All right, I was having some issues there with my machine. I just want to say I'm on my 2nd needle already, not because I've broken one, just because I needed a sharp one. This is, again, I'm using very thick leather, probably a little too thick for the tops of my straps, and it's just causing a lot of bulk, and so my needles are dulling a little quicker. I'm actually going to put a 3rd needle in now because I was having an issue, and now I'm on, this red leather is much thinner. I shouldn't be having an issue. So I'm going to just change out my needle. So make sure if you're having issues, change out your needle, rethread your machine. My nylon was getting all kind of tangled up in my machine as well. And that, put in a fresh bobbin. A lot of times that will solve most of your issues. Okay, that's just a little side thing there. But our front is coming along. Okay. Okay, so now next, we're gonna just set this aside now for just a little bit, and we are now going to sew our flap. So what's gonna happen is these are going to get sewn right sides together, everywhere but the top. So just, you know, along the side down to the point and up through the other side. As you can guess, then we're gonna clip and then turn it right side out. I'm going to really quickly change the needle in my machine though before I do that. And then I will proceed. All right, now that we've got these sewn right sides together, that wasn't too bad, I am going to clip my curves here, and then instead of just cutting off the tip here, I'm actually gonna cut a wedge out of the tip because this is a lot of bulk. And usually I will just snip into the seam allowance. I'm actually gonna take wedges out this time. And I'm using not a pair of precious scissors, although they do need to cut. All right, so the finished is going to look like that. I've got a big chunk right there at that tip. Okay, so now we're going to turn this right side out. All right, there we've got a very pretty flap. So before I do anything else, because we're gonna top stitch this, I'm actually gonna go over and hammer the living daylights out of it again, per normal, before we come back, and I will top stitch back and the front. So I'm gonna go do that, and then I'll come back and we can top stitch around the perimeter of the flap. Okay, I've hammered the daylights out of it. So now I'm just gonna go around and top stitch about 1/4 of an inch. Oops. Okay, so I had to go off camera to do my top stitching because I ended up having to take my machine apart to clean it. Okay, yeah, when you're doing this much bulk, you just have to go slow. I had to do quite a bit of hand cranking, but I mean, it turned out just fine. You can see the top stitching, looks good. Okay, next, we are going to take this pattern piece, and it's got the seam allowances marked on it so you can easily tell, and we're gonna poke holes right here. So we're gonna mark that on the flap and poke holes there. And then we're gonna take this little piece, which is strap U, and we're gonna mark, actually I already have marked the dots for the rivets. So we're gonna mark those holes. Those holes are going to get lined up with the holes on the front, and they will not lie flat. They will lay just, you know, up a little bit, and that's fine. That's, you know, what they're supposed to do. And we're gonna rivet them onto the flap. So these are the guides for the straps. So I am going to, again, just mark my holes, punch the holes on here, then I'll punch the holes on these, and then attach them together with rivets, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, so it should look like this. So we've got our little rivets. Some of mine got a little wonky. I'm going to, one of my Kylie and the Machine tags that I just bought is Perfectly Imperfect. That's totally this bag. Perfectly Imperfect. I'm totally embracing it. I'm getting better as I go along though. Again, I'm not a bag maker, but I'm having so much fun with this. In fact, I'm getting a little ahead of myself because I just want I just want to be able to wear it. I need to slow down, take my time. Okay, so that's what our lid should look like. Now we're gonna work on the strap, which is piece S, which is right here. So you've got one of those with the webbing. Again, I've got all my painter's tape here on everything. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna top stitch S to the webbing, but we wanna make sure that we have an equal amount of excess on either end of the webbing, because that's gonna get folded under. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. I'm just gonna top stitch and make sure I've got an equal amount on each end of excess leather. Hopefully my machine will behave itself now. All right, so now our, this is the handle, is gonna get attached to the front of the bag. So first, we're gonna line up the strap about 1.25 inches below the, this is the open top part of the bag. And I'm on my pattern piece is over there, but it will show you. We're gonna take, we've got these little extra leather ends. We're gonna just tuck those around. This is gonna be too long for this piece because it's gonna be a handle in the center. So that's okay. So we're just gonna mark it, and we are gonna put a rivet, you know, line up your folded end edge with the finished edge here, and we're gonna pop a rivet in there. And then we're gonna come over here and pop a rivet in there. And it's gonna be, you know, a lot of excess because this is gonna create the handle. So I'm just gonna go over, you just wanna make sure you have it down about 1.25 inches, the top of the strap, 1.25 inches down from the top edge, and just rivet those in place. And I'm gonna hit them with the hammer too, just to make them a little bit flatter. And then once those rivets are in, then we can do some top stitching. We have a lot of rivets getting ready to go in. So let's just rivet on either end right now, and we'll come right back. Okay, so now our handle is all loosey-goosey, but it's riveted in place on either side, 1.25 inches down. So now I'm going to take my S piece. I'm going to line, it says fold here at the side, and it shows where the rivet is, so I'll line that up here. And then I'm going to lay it flat until I come to this top stitch line that's on the pattern. And I'm just going to do like I did I think last week. I'm going to stick a pin in between the layers of the leather and the webbing, because that's where I'm going to top stitch there. Then I'm going to come to the other side and measure that out and mark that. So now those two white pins are where I need to top stitch. So I want it to be pretty flat. I mean, I do want it to be flat up to that point. So I'm just gonna do a line of top stitching across here, and then I'll go to the other side and make that flat and do a line of top stitching there. Then we're gonna do more rivets. But let's top stitch first. Okay. All right. My memory card got full. Okay. Now we have a handle. Look at that. Yay! Okay. So next step is going to be, okay. Sorry. We're not going to use piece X. It's reinforcement, but I'm so thick here, I think I'm okay. And I'm using this as a purse, not as like a really heavy backpack. So I'm not going to use the reinforcement piece X. Sorry, that got confusing. All right, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just gonna go through and do 2 rivets on each side, right on the inside of the top stitching, just to reinforce that handle, because this is feeling really sturdy to me, honestly. So I'm gonna go do that real quick, put 2 on the handle side of that top stitching. Yeah, and then I'll come right back, and then I think we just have to do, it's kind of wonky. Then I think we just need to do our straps, our T-straps, which are our closing straps. We're almost done with our front. Okay, so this is what our flap looks like. We've got the rivets right on the inside of that top stitching. We have our little handle. Now we're gonna make, this is the last thing we're gonna do today, and we're gonna do our strap, our T-strap. Our T is the pattern piece, and it's our strap closure. So what we're gonna do is, once again, top stitch on top of our webbing, but we're gonna have that much, you know, about that much left over at the end, because that's gonna get tucked under. We're gonna have it raw ends together up here at the top end. So I'm gonna top stitch the leather to the webbing on both these pieces real quick. Okay, once you've got your straps, you'll have again the extra leather at the bottom. That's gonna get wrapped up, and that's going to get riveted right there at the bottom. And you can see on your pattern piece, there's 2 rivet marks, because that's where it gets folded up, you know, and it gets riveted. And then you've got 2 snap pieces. So you're gonna need to punch holes for all 3 of those things, and these are male snaps. So you'll need 4 male snaps. So just go ahead and mark, you know, your rivet and then both snaps. The cap, you want the pretty caps for this one. The caps are gonna go on the leather side, and then the male pieces will go on this side. So I'm gonna go do that real quick and then show you what that looks like. All right, so this is what your the piece T strap should look like. You should have rivets here, and I went ahead and trimmed any excess leather I had in the back just so it didn't interfere with my snap installation. And then you've got the pretty caps on one side and the male pieces on the other. So now we are going to take these and we're going to slide one, and you should have notches, yes. You should have notches, so they're gonna get slid up underneath the handle piece here on each side, and I'm just gonna baste it at like 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch within the seam allowance up there at the top. Actually, I wonder if I could just, maybe it doesn't matter. So you could probably just baste the entire top closed, but I'll just go ahead and baste. It probably doesn't matter. Just baste these 2 straps in place really quickly. Okay, so now you've got these, and actually these will go through these carriers here. Like so. So there is our flap. So we should have a lining, our backpack straps, the back, the front, and the flap. So next week we will put it all together and finish our bag. Okay guys, I'll see you next week.